Have you ever wondered how it's possible the Faker can react to this? Or how he predicts Ruler's flash like this?
TP coming in, Faker looking to make the play, he gets Ruler! Oh, no, goes in! And again.
Or how absolutely legendary moments like this are made? It isn't reaction that these players are utilizing in these clips. It's anticipation. And anticipation is the core of League of Legends. When you react to something, it's you needing to see it, process it, make a decision in response to it, and then actually execute on that decision. When you are anticipating something, you already are expecting it, and generally already know what to do when it happens. So all you have to do is see it and then execute. You are taking 2 steps out of the equation. The way to utilize anticipation over reaction is by what I call mental priming. So what is mental priming? Mental priming is a way to prepare ourselves ahead of time for certain situations. The term priming in psychology is the idea that exposure to one stimulus may influence a response to a subsequent stimulus. The example given is that if you see the word doctor as a priming stimulus, you're likely going to recognize the word nurse much more quickly than the word bread, but priming can be used more than with word recognition. Importantly for us, it can affect attention and unconscious processing. The idea that we can get our brain thinking about something in order for us to more quickly do something later. This is why mental priming is so important in League. When we address the variables that we need to address before they happen, we will notice them quicker and be anticipating them. There are a large variety of situations where mental priming is useful, but in League, I think the core moments are the loading screen and before the game, before skirmishes, anytime that you're under threat, and the list goes on. At the core of mental priming is the idea of understanding the enemy. If you don't understand what the enemy wants to do, what the enemy's goals and intentions are, then there's no way for you to be able to anticipate what they're going to do. And because of this, you really have to understand the identity of every champ in the game. And even if you don't, you at least need to have a rough understanding and be able to make a guess. This takes a lot of time and building up of intuition and muscle memory over the course of many games. And that's why it's so important that if you're new to the game, to just play a bunch. This is also why playing a small champion pool is so important. We want to limit the amount of different interactions and variables that we need to think about. Our goal here is to put as many things into our intuition and muscle memory as possible. We need to reduce the amount of things that we're thinking about so we can pay attention and give our focus to the most important things. Priming ourselves is a way of reducing the amount of things that we're surprised by, and that means that we have less to think about when they happen. Okay, so how do you go about utilizing mental priming? Well, let's begin with the loading screen. When you are in the loading screen, you need to be thinking of a few core things, and those things are going to depend on the specifics of the champion you're playing, but generally, this will be who has threat onto me, what lanes am I wanting to influence if possible, what champions are going to be the most difficult to deal with, what champions on my team will be the most important to get ahead. Let's take an example from the first game I played of the season. In this game, I'm playing Talia versus Orianna. The first thing I'm thinking about is that this matchup isn't the easiest and I'll have to utilize good tempo resets in order to find windows of opportunity. I also know that I'm under a lot of threat when Orianna hits 6 because of the gank setup for Kha'Zix. Next, I know the bot lane is going to be insanely volatile and can get bloody very fast. All 4 of those champions want to fight and go for kills, so I know that if I have any opportunity, I'm probably going to be putting my attention towards bot lane. I also have to think about Pyke having the ability to roam very easily onto me, since I'm a mobile mage, and that can put a lot of pressure on me, so I have to be ready for that. Now, this may not be how the game ends up going at all, and I need to be ready to adapt to that. But the idea is that I made a prediction about how the game is going to go based on my prior experience, and so when opportunities are presented to me, I know where I probably need to place my attention. Now let's look at a couple of in-game scenarios. First, here's a super simple example where I'm on the side lane versus Fizz. I know that if Fizz lands on me, I'm going to die. And I know he wants to arm me when I go for a last hit on the cannon since that's when I'm most vulnerable. So when I walk up to the cannon, I'm already thinking to click back and dodge his ult. In this second example, I see LeBlanc walk into the bush. She could be walking to try and collapse on the Xin, but her ADC isn't there, and if I were her, I would probably just look to trade on Talia when she wasn't expecting it instead. But I'm thinking how she's thinking, so I'm expecting her to still be in the bush. So I click in and out, check with Q, get the ward down, and as soon as I read how she's walking, I throw my E to stun her on her W. There's no way that I'm going to react to this, only by anticipating her W can I use my E fast enough to stun her. These examples are fairly unexciting, but the idea is that if you're priming yourself consistently, all of these little details are going to add up. This gives you a good reference point for when you're reviewing your games as well. If there was a fight that went wrong or you got caught off guard, ask if it was because you weren't priming yourself correctly beforehand. And one of those times, that little detail may just be a game-winning play. I hope this explanation of mental priming was clear, and as always, feel free to ask any questions you have in the comments. You can also join my Discord that is linked in the description to discuss with other people on the topic or just chat about League in general.